Welcome to the Sellin' Podcast with Jeffrey Greif. Jeffrey has spent more than 45 years in sales and marketing. And for more than 25 years, he's presented sales seminars from large corporations to small businesses, as well as teaching university students all about the pride and passion of sales. Now, he's sharing that knowledge and practical advice with you to fast-track your journey to sales success. Whether you're selling a product, a service, or ideas, this is the Sellin' Podcast. And now your host, Jeffrey Greif.
Several years ago, I had to undergo surgery in one of the arteries leading into my heart. As the nurses strapped me down onto the operating table, the doctor walked in to consult with me prior to the surgery about to take place. The doctor wore a surgical mask, a doctor's cap, a doctor's gown, and plastic cover slippers over his shoes. Now, had he walked in wearing faded blue jeans, a stained, worn-out Ralph Lauren polo shirt, and a New York Mets cap turned backwards, I would have snapped those straps holding me to that surgical table so fast and ran out of that hospital as quickly as possible. That doctor has the same expertise and experience. Why would I have gotten out of there as fast as I could? Because of his outfit. That's why. Perception is reality. The doctor in the surgical outfit, I am confident in. The guy in the Mets cap and jeans, no way am I letting that guy anywhere near me. Surgery? Forget about it. I expect all of the professionals that I work with to dress appropriately based on their profession, don't you? You think when I'm having dental work that I want my dentist wearing jeans and a golf shirt? You think my accountant, when I'm meeting with him to discuss my taxes, would ever be wearing cargo shorts and a ribbed sleeveless undershirt? How about my estate planning attorney? When my wife and I meet with her to discuss our finances and estate planning work, think she's wearing a short skirt and a tank top? How about my financial advisor? When I meet with him to discuss our finances and investments, he'd better be wearing a suit and a tie. Yes, all professionals must be dressed professionally, and it's the same in sales. You have to dress like the professional that you are. In 1975, a book was written by John T. Malloy called Dress for Success. That book was more than just a suggestion of how men should dress. It wasn't just about looking nice. It was a behavioral study of psychological and sociological perceptions based on how people respond to men's wardrobes in different ways. I read Dress for Success in the 1980s. At that time, it was a mandatory read for all men in the advertising business. The owners of the advertising agencies and the managers needed all of us to be dressed appropriately for every day in the office, and especially when we were meeting with clients. After reading the book Dress for Success, I went out and bought a solid blue suit and 3 solid white shirts and 5 rep ties from Brooks Brothers. This was in the 1980s when I wasn't making much money. Let's just say that more than half of my income went to my rent, and there were plenty of times when there was too much month at the end of the money. It took me a long time to pay off that expense on my credit card, and it was a must. I needed to be dressed as a professional. I needed to be perceived as a success well before I was. Men, you have got to read Dress for Success. And for those of you who think I'm being misogynistic here, the 1975 book Dress for Success was written specifically for men. John T. Malloy also wrote a book in 1977 called The Women's Dress for Success, and I highly recommend that women read that book. These books are sociological studies of perception, so important if you are in sales. Did you know that a person makes up their mind about you within 7 seconds of first meeting you, and that their perception of you that is developed within those first 7 seconds will last a lifetime? During those first 7 seconds, I want clients and prospects to see me as a professional. Malloy was a scientific image consultant and a clothing researcher. He didn't just make this stuff up. He researched professional images and business perception. Unless you were doing your own sociological study of people's perceptions, if you don't read the book Dress for Success, where the heck are you going to learn this most important aspect of your sales profession? How you dress is so important to how people perceive you. And to a large extent, clients and prospects make decisions on whether or not they'll do business with you based on how you dress. Malloy begins his introduction to the 1975 book Dress for Success with the following comments, and I quote, "The reason why businessmen tend to dress for failure is because they let their wives or their girlfriends or the sales clerk or clothing company advertising choose their clothing, or they allow their background or social community influence their clothing decisions. There is a way to avoid any of those mistakes and to dress for success instead. Let research choose your clothing." Malloy continues, "My research has been conducted over a 26-year period and includes the opinions and subconscious reactions of over 60,000 executives in all phases of business, as well as those of a wide cross-section of general public. This research is based on the research done by two great behavioralists, Pavlov and Skinner, who were correct when they presented their psychological research that proved that humans are preconditioned by our environment. The way we dress has a remarkable impact on the people we meet professionally or socially, and greatly affects how other people treat us. Depending upon the situation, dress will evoke a favorable response. I will never ask you to concede that it is fair or just for a man's success or failure to depend to a large extent on how he dresses. But that is very much the way that business and culture works. It is far more rewarding to let reality be your guide. Fact: people who look successful receive preferential treatment in almost all of their social or business encounters. End quote. I completely agree with Malloy. In the 1970s and 1980s, there was a classical music radio show where all of the DJs wore tuxedos. That sounds crazy, but it's true. Why would the DJs of a radio show wear tuxedos? None of their listeners ever saw them. It was radio. Why did they wear tuxedos? I know the answer. Their listeners didn't see them, but they saw themselves. By wearing a tuxedo, they felt more professional. They were more professional. They were more connected to the music that they were playing, and therefore, they were much more connected to their listeners. It's the same reason why I record every single one of the Sellin' podcasts wearing a Brooks Brothers blue blazer sports jacket. You don't see me. However, I see myself. I see that I am dressed appropriately. I feel more professional. I am a professional. And I feel more connected to the profession of sales, as well as feeling much more connected to you, my brothers and sisters, on the path to success in sales. I highly recommend read Dress for Success and dress professionally so that your clients and prospects will see you as a professional, and they will know that you will provide them with the premier goods and professional services that you are selling them. In addition to my recommendation that you read Dress for Success, here are a couple of more recommendations for you in order to be recognized as the professional salesperson that you are. When you have a sales presentation, wear a suit and a tie. When you are attending a networking event, wear a suit and a tie. I do. It's my brand. Professionalism. It's my uniform. Some men tell me it's passé that men don't wear suits and ties anymore. Don't you believe it? You want to be seen as a professional? Wear a suit and a tie, like me. During the spring, summer, and early fall months, I will often wear a sports jacket on Fridays, with a tie, of course. However, I must say, if I am at a meeting for cocktails at 5 for informal business networking, I will pay attention to the group. If none of the other men are wearing a tie, I'll take my tie off after a half an hour or so, but I leave the sports jacket on. I'm a professional salesman. Also, always make sure that your shoes are shined. Make sure that the color of your belt matches that of your shoes. I think Malloy covers that in Dress for Success, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. Also, this is very important to me. When you're standing, button your suit jacket or your sports jacket. When you're seated, you can unbutton your suit jacket. But when you're standing, button your jacket. There is a certain president of the United States who doesn't button his suit jacket. And it drives me crazy. I think it's because my father didn't button his suit and sports jackets. Back to the psychotherapist for me, but I'll say it again. When you're standing, button your suit jacket and button your sports jacket. And this is also a very important point. Facial hair. Gentlemen, if you're a salesman, shave. Did you know that men started shaving in ancient Rome? Shaving became fashionable in the 3rd century BCE, influenced by Greek customs perceived as hygienic and societally refined. By the 1st century BCE, a clean-shaven face became a mark of Roman identity and respectability. It was during this time that the Roman military insisted that Roman military troops shaved and groomed themselves for hygiene and, most importantly, to distinguish themselves from barbarians. Grooming in ancient Rome became the ideals of civilization, discipline, and social order. This served as a contrast to other countries, especially those other countries who Rome was at war with. See, the barbarians wore beards. Romans were clean-shaven. The lesson here? Guys, if you're a salesman, you got to shave. When you have facial hair, people perceive you as hiding something. When you have a mustache or a beard, other people perceive you as hiding something. Is it fair? I don't really care. Is it true? Yes. You don't want your clients and prospects to subconsciously believe that you are hiding something. You are going to have difficulty making the sale. And young men, let me tell you something. I see so many young salesmen these days with that close-cropped beard, that light or heavy stubble-trimmed beard. Guys, you all look the same. Stand out, be different, shave, and show the world that beautiful face of yours. Do you want to be stylish, or do you want to be a successful salesman? If you want to sell, shave. And don't even get me started on wearing a goatee. No salesman should ever wear a goatee. No salesman should ever have a beard or a mustache, and especially not a goatee. Unless you're a musician in a smoke-filled 1950s bebop jazz club playing bongos at night wearing a leather vest and a French beret, get rid of the goatee. Okay, Daddy-O, you dig? Salesman, you have got to have a clean-shaven face. For all of you salespeople, men and women, you are a professional, just like a doctor, just like a lawyer, just like an accountant, or any professional. You are a professional salesperson. Dress the part so people will know that you are a professional salesperson, a professional who has pride in your profession. Now get out there and sell.
We hope you found this episode of the Sellin' Podcast helpful and of interest. Please make sure to like, rate, and review. And mention this podcast to a friend or a business associate. Have a comment about this podcast? Have a topic you'd like Jeffrey to discuss? Feel free to contact Jeffrey directly at jeffrey@sellin.net. He'll read and review every one of your emails. That's jeffrey@sellin.net. .net as in networking for success in sales. Now, take what you've learned today and get out there and sell. See you next time on the Sellin' Podcast.